Hey, it's me, Big P, and I wanted to do a really quick video going over the league start plan for 0.5 Path of Exile 2. I'm basically going to be doing an Entangle Thrashing Vines Oracle. I did a bit of a test run here. I can show where I currently am at. I'm in the interludes or whatever of the campaign. Seems pretty solid. This is the leveling tree. It's just like a nice, you rush Wild Surge Incantation and get whatever damage and physical damage nodes you can. It does have I pulled this directly from the current setup, so it's like a little, if you want to emulate a league start setup, it's very similar. I mean, there's a lot of people doing this sort of build. There's I know Rax's, I know Dead Rabbit has a really good one. They're probably doing, I think, a couple different ones in terms of ascendancy choices. I'm going for Oracle for a couple of reasons. I know that the Oracle kind of starts really quick and consistently for the first 3 labs. Once I get the 3rd lab, you go for Inevitable Crit to automate cast on crit really nicely. That tree would look more like this. And then furthermore, if I feel like once I get the 4th lab, if I'm not too crazy about Entwined Realities, I can start playing with Unnamed Heartwood and Ancestral Bond. So I do have an example of a tree here. We're near a bunch of the totem stuff you'd be taking anyway. I haven't played with spell totems in PoE 2 yet. It's definitely something I want to experiment with in terms of like how consistent it would be going forward. It's not the same as, I like totems as a starter in PoE 1. Not necessarily the case in 2, because it definitely has a little bit more kind of hoops you have to jump through to set it all up. I think in 2, there's a couple of things we'd have to look into in terms of like charge generation, so I'd rather just go for Ancestral Bond. I do like the fact that the Ancestral Bond keystone in 2 does not turn off damage from other skills, so we could really just look into this as like a late game end game bossing setup where we'll probably go for Bone Storm totems. I'll be making updates throughout the first weekend and week or so of PoE 2 new patch. So if you want to see just what other people are doing, I will be going for I like the idea of a Bone Storm totem. I think totems are at their best when they're using like a high damage channeling skill, because they can really optimally channel damage and do it. But I also don't like the idea of just using Bone Storm totem for clear, because it's really slow. It looks like really slow compared to like what others, like if like for example like Divine Ire totems in PoE 1, at least they're doing a bit of damage in an area while they're charging up, and then they're shooting like pretty quickly. That sort of cast speed and everything here is just not the case. Something worth mentioning is that this is the old skill tree, but we're still in an area where really the only thing I'd be looking for in this area of the skill tree is armor applied as elemental damage. We get 15% of it here. On the gear I have here, we do have a 17% roll. You can get a lot more rolls, and probably even more when you're talking about like the unique runes and stuff like that. It's definitely going to be a stat that we're going to be looking into. I will probably be something of an armor ES hybrid, maybe leaning a bit more towards armor. ES is probably still good. I just, don't want to compete with other people for gear in terms of ES, and armor just seems like, maybe it's in an okay spot. And I kind of want to see the changes for myself. So yeah, we'll be looking into that. Basically, I'm just doing this to experiment and kind of satisfy my own curiosity about, where a lot of stuff is in PoE 2 balance. Let's see if we can jump into the game real quick. I actually didn't plan on what we're at right now. Where are we? Let's see. Okay, I did Woven Hold, so I mean, if you've never seen an Entangled Druid before, I mean, this is what it looks like casting and stuff like that. We'll just run through. I mean, this is what I've been doing. I have been carried completely by this insane staff. I picked this up midway through Act 2, and it's just been destroying. So, oh, look at this guy, my favorite guy. But yeah, this is we're well past Act 4 now, and you just kind of cycle between Entangle, Thunderstorm, and Thrashing Vines for a single target. Show up guy. My graphics have been doing really weird stuff ever since the update that migrated us all back to standard. So, I mean, recovery and things like that are definitely something I'm going to be looking at, because it's not really the strong point of the build right now. And just leech overall is much weaker. Considering we're not planning on going into things like convalescence or just ES in general, you know, we might just be relying on a life flask. Oh, that's a big hit. So let's see. We also are still self-casting Bone Storm like that. It's pretty good. It's been great actually since I picked it up in Act 1. You know, but it is like you have to kind of get away from it. Did you just block a lot of that damage? There you go. My other defensively, the gear is absolutely terrible. I mean, you have less than 20 resistances everywhere else, which is miserable. But you know, it's the best. Offense is a good defense. I will say the Entangle has a bit of a delayed damage, but once you get like Wild Surge Incantation and all these sorts of things, you know, it's a pretty traditional spellcaster build. We do have a pretty nice amulet here. It's giving a nice amount of life and some plus to all skill gems. That's really the only thing we're missing on the staff in terms of power up. And like I said, armor is LE damage taken on that helmet, which is probably doing more work than I realize right now. Yeah, damage is definitely falling off a bit now that I'm getting later into the act. So, but around this time is where you can start shopping for like decent stabs and things like that. I'm not gonna run to the... I wish I had a boss here. Do I have a boss? I'm just gonna get the waypoint here. I mean, you get the idea. It's nothing insane in terms of what like new stuff I'm doing. Yeah, we'll just hold the waypoint here and just quickly go over accelerated growth. You pick up like I think in Act 3. Zenith is nice during leveling, and then branching fissures actually I think is what you pick up in Act 3. Bone Storm is just with Virgin and Zenith. I've been kind of like lacking on the damage here. I probably should put a third jewel into this, and this would probably be what we throw into a totem. If you want to experiment with totems early, you can get Armor Break 3, which gives you a chance to gain an endurance charge on your Entangle, and then spend the endurance charges on a Bone Storm. Might experiment with that early if I'm feeling like the Entangle and Thrashing Vines alone aren't doing too much. Yeah, Thrashing Vines is like the single target here for considered casting, conk area, and prolonged duration, and then this has also prolonged duration, rapid casting, and living lightning, which has been really nice early on. Ravenous Swarm is basically just doing armor break through corrosion. Nice to have. Since we do have a little bit of extra spirit, I'm still hanging on to this when you probably want... I use temporal chains while leveling just because I wasn't really feeling for damage, but you can go vulnerability instead. Just with more area. And yeah, this has felt like a pretty solid, good starter so far. I don't think I've started a spell build yet in PoE 2. I've done mostly like grenades and bows and stuff like that. So I'm excited to see, you know, investing into a, you know, maybe spirit maxing several totems, single target beasts. Seems like it's going to be fun. Let me know what you're starting, and if you have any suggestions going into it, looking at the gear I currently have. I mean, this is just like whatever gear. This ring sucks. This is okay. Sure. Terrible. Yeah, a friggin' magic ring. Nothing insane. I pretty much used all my RNG on this friggin' staff, so I'm not looking forward to this weekend trying to push with whatever I get, but we'll see how it goes. You know, I think just pushing the plus levels and any spell damage, any gain as sort of thing. I do like leveling. I've always liked leveling with physical spells in PoE 1, just because you kind of just push those gem levels and you get the brunt of your damage there. It's just very simple sort of scaling. We're going to see the same thing here. Of course, you do have to balance that with mana cost and things like that, so we'll see. Maybe spell totems can get around that. Yeah, I'm just very excited to see exactly what we get into and how fun it'll be for the new patch. Let me know what you're up to and what your plans are. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.